The NHL playoffs continue as the battle is on to win one of the coolest trophies in professional sports. Now, one of the things that makes the Stanley Cup so unique is that each player on the winning team actually gets to spend a day with it.
And that is the basis of this new book, My Day with the Cup, and author Jim Lang joins us now. Welcome to the morning show, Jim.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Jeff.
It is our pleasure, and this tradition is so cool. How did it even get started?
It started that at one time it was a very informal thing, like, hey, you won the Stanley Cup, have some time with it. But the impetus was in 1994, the New York Rangers won the Stanley Cup, and they had a little too much fun in Manhattan with Mark Messier and Glenn Healy and the Rangers. And Gary Bettman, to his credit, decided we need to do a supervised tour and celebrate the fact this is such a unique sports trophy where people's names are on it. And so starting in 1995, they had the keeper of the cup, Phil Pritchard, and the curators of the Stanley Cup at the Hockey Hall of Fame basically chaperone the Stanley Cup and go from Saskatoon to Truro, Nova Scotia, down to Michigan, over to Sweden, and it's taken on a life of its own, that the players know that right after the celebrations, they're called into the office by the GM and they submit their dates. When do I get my day with the cup?
Wow. That is so cool, so cool. And there's lots of cool and great stories in this book of how players have actually spent their day with the cup. Let's start with Brendan Shanahan, if we could. One of the great stories in the book, Jim, who won, of course, several cups with the Red Wings.
Well, he did. And one thing about Brendan Shanahan, and that photo right there that you're looking at, he's looking at his family in the crowd. Now, he had lost his dad a few years earlier to early onset Alzheimer's, so he's looking at his mom and his brothers in the crowd. And he had, in West End Toronto, in Etobicoke, there's a place called Apache Burger, and it's a famous hamburger onion ring place. And during his day with the cup, he had a bit of a break, and he said, well, I want to get a hamburger. But then he drove by the gravesite where his dad was buried, and he sat in the car, and he was with the cup, and he said, I'm not sure if I should do this. But he thought about it, and he put the cup by the gravesite and had a quiet moment with it. And then put it back in the car and went and had a double, the onion rings, half fries, and his hamburger. And that's the kind of thing the cup has. It has almost a mythical power that people share it with loved ones, you know, who have gone away or still with us. They take it to hospital rooms. They take it, and it's the sharing of the cup that makes it so unique to any other trophy in professional sports.
Yeah, and I think every hockey parent watching right now are thinking about how many times I took my son or daughter to the rink, and for Shanny to think about that and want to, you know, share that with his dad after death is just, it really gives you goosebumps. It's
family. You know, Jeff, so many of the players and coaches I spoke to said the only time they saw their dad or their uncle or their grandfather cry is when the cup was on a table in their kitchen or their living room, and their dad was touching it and saw the name Jean Beliveau or Guy Lafleur, or saw Bobby Orr or Gordie Howe, and it brought them to tears. And they realized that when they win the cup and they have the party and the parade, it's one thing. When the cup's in the house and family members are crying and they see the love coming from all your family and friends, it hits them like, this is not just another trophy.
Tell us about the star treatment the trophy got when LA Kings won the cup in 2012 and Jordan Nolan.
Yeah, well, Jordan Nolan and the Kings, it's something about hockey because they travel so much, especially in LA. They are all TV and movie buffs. They download shows on their tablets and watch stuff. So for Jordan Nolan and for the LA Kings, they had a celebration with Eric Stonestreet from Modern Family, from David Beckham, Colin Hanks, and you makes it the stars, all the stars were there. But the second it was done, he went to management and said, I want to take the cup to Garden River. And Garden River is the Indigenous reservation in Northern Ontario near Sault Ste. Marie, where he spent his summers. His father, Ted Nolan, the famous coach of the Buffalo Sabres, and they have generations of history in Garden River, and it became a celebration of the Stanley Cup, but a celebration of their Indigenous culture with real traditional Indigenous ceremonies, including a smudging ceremony blessing the cup when he had it. So I think for the people of Garden River, it had a little bit special meaning. Although they did eat Lucky Charms out of the bowl before the start of all the ceremonies, because that was their favorite cereal growing up too.
All right, Jim, we got time for one last story, and we have to mention somebody who has won the cup several times, and I know one of your favorites, Sidney Crosby.
Well, Sidney Crosby is, without question, as far as I'm concerned, the most humble, down-to-earth superstar athlete I've ever had the pleasure of speaking to in 3 decades. He could not be more accommodating and more sharing of the cup, and he bleeds Nova Scotia tartan. The second he gets the cup, it's going back to Cole Harbour, it's going back to Nova Scotia, and there's a wonderful story that the first time he had the cup, his one grandmother had never touched a drop of alcohol. And they're at the Alexander Keys Brewery on the historic waterfront in Halifax. And they're drinking beer out of the cup. And he turns around, Grandma, and she's drinking Alexander Keys out of the Stanley Cup. The first time, the only time she ever had it, but it's a Stanley Cup. And, you know, and he talks about playing road hockey with his childhood friends in Cole Harbour with the cup beside them. They were playing for the cup. And, you know, and the last time Sid had the cup, the keeper was closing it up. And he said, really? Do you have to go? And at midnight every night, it's like Cinderella. They pack it up and they go to the next city. But, you know, and he was quite honest. He goes, I spent all my time in the offseason training and working out and skating because I just want one more day with it.
Like you say in the book, if the cup could talk.
If the cup could talk, there's some stories we could print and we couldn't print, but it's a lot of fun.
There you go. My day with the cup. Here it is here. You can read all the stories. Well, most of them. Jim, thanks so much.
Thank you.